And now we move on to 570, which, as everyone knows, is my favorite Motionless song of all time and the most personal song that I've ever written before. For those of you who are unaware, 570 is the area code of Northeast Pennsylvania, where the band is from. And the song is the story of our career over the 10 years that it had been when the song was written in 2016. Our 10-year anniversary of being an official touring band was in 2016, and the song is about reflecting on all the experiences that we've been through to build what we have today, all the highs and all the lows throughout all that time, and so many specific highlights that are so personal to us in the band throughout all those years. I think there are more things about our band that people don't know than things that they do. I do know we have some old school fans left, but I don't really know how many are still around from the years of like 2006 to 2010 or 2012 before 2010 before Creatures came out. And those years were the most memorable and challenging years of my entire life and our entire career, with so many stories to tell that would help you understand the history of the band. And 570 is mostly centralized around those years of the band and not so much recent years, but a lot of the feelings we had then have carried over into more recent years. So it still works when looking at the entire 10 years retrospectively, which is actually 12 years now that we've been a touring band, which just fucking insane. I'm gonna break down the song a little bit more of like a storyteller's way, since every single line of this song has such a deep meaning attached to it, and we're not going to discuss every single line, but more so the lines with the most history attached. So I guess we can start with a really, really big one, which is "No money, no sleep, dedication, 10 years on the road, this is sacred." When I wrote those lines, I was referring to a few different moments in our history. One of which is when we started touring in 2006, we were saving up money from our jobs for months to be able to pay for the gas to drive our shitty, busted ass van and eat anything. And since we weren't getting paid for the shows at all that we did, that's just what we had to do. And we were so broke that we were making our own shirts in the back of our van by pouring Clorox on black shirts to bleach them and painting MIW on them just to try to have something to sell merch-wise to help us survive, even though I don't think anyone bought it, understandably so. For a lot of years, we were booking our own tours through MySpace by offering show trades or just asking to get on shows that were already happening. And this always makes me laugh to think how old the band actually is. At the time, we didn't even have a GPS. We were touring with an actual map and Angelo's sidekick using MapQuest, and I think we only had like an EP and a few songs even released at the time. It's just, I wonder if people are going to hear this and be like, what's a map? What's an actual map? What's a sidekick? That's great. And by the way, Angelo is our original drummer who was in the band for the majority of the band's career. Just to help you understand who he is. I think about when that line comes up, I think about the first full U.S. tour that we did in 2009 with a band called My Hero Is Me, and where we ran out of all of our personal money that we saved up, and I think we had about $5 a week to eat each, and everyone had pneumonia on the tour. I was so fucked for like almost 2 weeks. I just had to sleep in the van and sweat it out and just pound orange juice, and I just felt like I was dying and had to go on stage. And Ryan actually had to go to the hospital all while during a time where we were sleeping in the freezing cold van because we couldn't afford gas to keep the van running all night for heat. There was a show. Another story is there was a show that we played on that tour that I think was in Reno or just outside of Vegas. And after the show, we all went to this casino with a movie theater and a bowling alley to just hang out. And our friend Michelle Starr was actually on that part of the tour with us. And her and I were walking around the casino. We came across the movie theater, and I have the weakness of smelling movie popcorn and needing to eat it. So I didn't have any money for the movie popcorn. I was dying to have some, and apparently decided that I was gonna have movie popcorn for dinner instead of like a $2 McChicken that I could have bought somewhere. But I didn't even have the money to get the $5 popcorn. So me and Michelle walked down to the roulette tables, and she actually taught me how to play roulette, or more like the in-depth details of roulette besides just putting something on black and hoping to win. But I think I had $2, and I put $2 on black, and I won, and I put another dollar on red, and I lost, and I put two more on black, and I basically just used roulette to make money, and I won enough money to be able to go buy me and Michelle popcorn at the fucking movie theater. And I know that probably means nothing to anybody else, but it's just really weird to think back to a time like that where I had to put the only $2 I had in my pocket on a roulette table to try to buy popcorn for me and my friend, so we can hang out on the weekend after the show. And it's just really cool things to think about. And like I said, I don't know, probably doesn't mean anything to you or you think it's stupid, but to me it's just something that I look back on and I really think is a cool story for the time period. There's another story that I think I mentioned this in the metal talks on Spotify that I did, where in 2010 we were on an off day from a tour that we were doing right before entering the studio to start recording Creatures, and we were parked at a Panera Bread parking lot, and I think, yeah, as I said, it was right before we were working on Creatures. So me, Ricky, and our guitarist at the time, TJ, went into the trailer and had the door open, and we were just working on some of the music for some of the songs that we're going to be recording soon. And we were working on the breakdown for the song Cobwebs. And I just remember Angelo was inside of Panera using the Wi-Fi and just sitting in there. I don't know if he was eating anything, but I just remember looking over to Panera and then looking back at Ricky and TJ and just being like, man, I can't wait for the day where we could like actually afford to eat Panera on tour instead of having to steal cans of SpaghettiOs off of Walmart shelves that we were doing. I mean, we pretty much were stealing as much food from Walmart that was possible, and that's how we were getting to eat anything, by being thieves and having to resort to that because we just didn't have money to eat anything. And it's just another one of those funny moments to look back and be like, man, there was a time in my life that I couldn't wait to eat Panera bread, and that it was at this point now 8 years ago, but it feels very real and very close to me going forward in my life. That's just what things I look back and makes me feel more appreciative of everything now. And I guess to touch on the no sleep part of the line, there's just one specific story I'll give. I remember in 2008 we were doing a few shows on Warped Tour, and we were driving from Charlotte to Virginia Beach for the next show. And I'm sure anyone could just look at the routing for Warped Tour and realize that some of these drives are pretty brutal. And when you're a band like we were at the time, where we didn't have a crew, it was the 4 or 5 of us doing everything, all the way from dragging our equipment through the parking lots to the stage, and then setting up our own merch, doing our merch, playing the show, packing it all up, and then only 3 people being able to drive the van overnight. It's just like incredibly dangerous, and just put ourselves through a lot of physical stress and just a lot of physical stress and not sleeping really at all. And I remember on that drive, that was probably the closest I'd ever come to like completely falling asleep while driving. I remember stopping in a gas station before and getting like a Monster or some energy drink, and stopping for gas again along the way and getting 2 more. And by the time I think we were an hour away from Virginia Beach, I was doing like just think of Jason Statham in the movie Crank, where I'm just like punching myself in the face, rocking back and forth frantically, like throwing water in my face, yelling at myself, doing anything I could to try to stay awake and not kill us, because we had to get to the next venue for a check-in in the morning. And that's happened to everybody in the van, not just me. We've all had to endure really, really intense drives, and some people have almost fallen asleep. And no matter how much we try to do like the the shotgun buddy system where someone stays awake with you. It just, I don't know. It's was definitely one of the most like physically demanding things that we'd ever done. And I don't think during the years where we were driving vans and our RV, we really ever really slept that much. But yeah, that's what plays into that part of the line. It's just so wild to look back at these moments and see that I don't think we even started reaching a point where the band was touring with a solid financial situation until around 2012 or even later. So like 6 of our 10 years of touring were hard years, but they were just so fucking memorable and built such a bond with each other. And I guess that helps kind of transition into the next line that we can talk about. In regards to that bond. And there's a line in the song, "Nothing can replace those lessons learned as I stood with my brothers on the side of the road." When I wrote that line, I was very specifically referring to a tour in 2006 that we did where our van at the time overheated every single day. And we were driving out of Tampa, Florida, and it just shut off on us. And we were pulled over on the side of the road. I just trying to figure out what to do. And the other 2 bands that we were touring with were stopped with us, and it was like we didn't even give a fuck about the van. We really didn't. We were all just there together, hanging out, joking, and making the best of the situation. And I think there's even a photo still somewhere on the internet that from that exact moment. Actually, it's just it's us, the original members of the band, and you'll see a bunch of other guys, and we're just standing on the side of the road, and you can just see how much we didn't fucking care at all. We were just stoked to be on tour and actually excited to be broken down on the side of the road together. And with that, I guess one other story to get that point across is another story that speaks to that line is a story that Ryan always tells at the Q&A is about his favorite touring moment being back in his first year of him being in the band in 2008. We were driving to a Warped Tour date in, I think, Jacksonville, Florida. And at the time, we were sleeping in Walmart parking lots at night, and if we weren't driving, and we stopped at one once we got to Jacksonville, and I think it was just after midnight, and we were still just like super wide awake and wired, and we just pulled out our little charcoal grill and just started grilling hot dogs and sitting on the pavement, all joking around for hours and having the time of our lives, just simply bonding over being on tour and how excited we were to be playing shows on Warped Tour and Ryan being on his first tour. And it's just moments like that that are really attached to that line and things that we all in the band think back to and really appreciate that we had the chance to experience. And I guess moving on to another line that has a lot of history attached to it would be, for so long, no one was listening, determined to make their deaf ears ring. It's so weird to say these lines spoken word. I don't know the cadence of how to say it, but yeah, for so long, no one was listening, determined to make their deaf ears ring. I think it's still very true to this day that our band is not the most accepted band in this genre of music. And when we started playing shows in 2005 and then officially touring in 2006, when we consider the band to be a real band, all the way to, I think, 2012, we spent the majority of that time period of touring and playing a ton of shows with bands whose fans hated us and did not want us there at all. We definitely had a solid home fan base in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, but even then, we were still the band that people talked the most shit on in our area. Like everyone hated us, and half of the local shows we were on were either with hardcore bands or really, really heavy bands whose fans just despised us, and we just played through it. And the other half of the shows were a really great stretch of years where we were part of what we refer to as the big four of the local bands in our area. There was a band called The Storm, a band called Goodbye Soundscape, and another band called To Outlive the Beginning. And once a week for, I swear, for 2 years straight, each one of our bands would either book our own shows at a lot of the local VFW halls, or we would be put on the other national tours as openers together. And there are a lot of great memories from that time period too. I actually even mentioned one of those venues called the Dome in our song Cobwebs. But even through all of that, through the good and bad, I'm referring to the good, even through all that, while we did have our dedicated fans, we were still the joke of the big four, and no one really ever took us seriously or thought that we were ever going to make it anywhere. And I think that really pushed us early on to try to defy all that negativity, and that drive and passion still burns just as hot now as it did then. And I loved all the other three bands in the big four, but it's wild to see that sadly they're no longer bands anymore. And we've thought about asking them if they would play a show in a local VFW hall that we would host, and I hope someday that we can actually make that happen, because I think it'd be amazing. At least I'd probably be the only one that gave a fuck, but I think it'd be great. Another line to focus on, I think we'll just do two more lines for time's sake. Another line would be, you can always rinse the surface, but the stain will remain. There's a few references to past lyrics I've written in 570 that always held a special place in my heart. I put them in 570, but there's the To Keep From Getting Burned reference, which is a throwback to our When Love Met Destruction EP. That's a song off of that EP. And then with the You Can Always Rinse the Surface, but the stain will remain line, it's interesting because that line was never actually a lyric in any of our songs. The only time that that's ever appeared was in the intro to our video for Creatures, and I've always wanted to actually use it in as a line for one of our songs, but it just never felt right until 570. But the line means something different in the Creatures video than it does for 570, but I really enjoyed bringing it back because in this song, it means that regardless of where the band is at now and headed towards, we've never forgotten the majority of our career being years of intense physical, mental, emotional, and financial stress and trials that we've had to survive through. There's a lot of morals and a lot of qualities of our character that were formed in those days that make me really, really proud to see the band has carried on and kept close to our hearts. And it makes me appreciate everything we have accomplished infinitely more because our career has been such an intense uphill battle. Like we've never had a big break at any point of our career, or at least not one that we didn't work our fucking asses off to make happen, like signing to Roadrunner or any of the other great things that's ever happened. That shit didn't just happen to us. We worked our asses off, and we've earned every single thing that's ever happened in our timeline. And I can't express to you what it feels like to have this kind of history and to be able to look back at then versus now and just feel what it's like to have actually put your time in and see the reward for it. And that's kind of what the You Can Always Rinse the Surface line is about. It's no matter where the band's going, we have not forgotten the things that have happened in our past. So I guess the last line that we can highlight here, and then I'll be done, I swear, is the biggest line of the song, my favorite line of the song, which is, if you mean it, you will make it. I wanted to say something that was super personal to me and that would connect with the fans in a way that lyrics like Open Your Mind Before Your Mouth and You Can't Kill All of Us did. I've always been a believer that you reap what you sow, and the harder you work, the more successful you will become. And I wanted our story to inspire people to pursue whatever dreams that they may have, and to see that if we can do this, then so can you. The more personal part of it is the concept of what making it actually means to me. I don't define success I've experienced by the tours we've done, or that we're on a bus now, or selling albums or merch or whatever the case is. My idea of what making it is seeing people like my parents be incredibly proud of me, and seeing how happy they are when we get to hang out when I'm home, or getting to be out on the road loving what I do and sharing it with people that share the same passions as I do, and experiencing that bond that all these great things and all these terrible things that have happened really kind of breed, and we get to feel together. I still have a lot of goals that I want to accomplish, but as far as when I felt that I had made it, quote unquote, it was a long time ago when I started to wake up every day and felt proud of myself for not giving up on my dream, and the fact that at any point of my life I'll be able to look back on all these memories I mentioned and a million more and feel what I feel about them.